Hey boys and girls, thank you for joining me. Behind me, what do you see swimming around? If you said fish, you would be correct. I've got many species of fish that are swimming around in an aquatic environment. So you'll notice I said the word aquatic. That means we're looking at freshwater fish and not marine or saltwater fish. Now behind me, these really awesome fish live in a special habitat called a blue hole. And it's called a blue hole because, as you can see, it's really pretty and crystal clear and blue. And it looks like that when we're viewing it from the rivers or from the creeks. Now we're here in southwest Georgia, and we've got multiple blue holes that are off different sections of our creek. And they are fed by water coming up from springs directly from the ground. And because we have this water coming up directly from the ground, the water stays at constant temperature, which means that it's a great place for lots of different types of fish to hang around. Now you'll notice we keep talking about fish and how cool they are. Well, I think fish are really amazing. So let's look at some of the things that make fish a little bit special. So what you can see is that I've actually got a fish skeleton. So this is what's going on inside, underneath all of those scales and the muscle. This would be a fish skeleton. So you can see he's got that nice little mouth there, and then coming right off the side of his cheeks, he's got something special. You see me doing something funky with my hand? I am imitating that fish's gills. And those gills are how fish breathe. So fish, unlike us, they can breathe underwater because they have those gills. And you'll notice those gills keep fluttering. And what he's doing when he's fluttering is he's pulling water inside of his mouth. And when it goes in his mouth, it passes over his gills, and he can pull oxygen out of the water. That's what we do with our lungs. When we inhale and breathe in, our lungs are pulling oxygen out of the air. So that's exactly what the fish is doing. He's just doing it underwater. Now, obviously, the fish looks a little bit different from us, right? You have got hands and you have got legs. This fish, he doesn't have hands, but he has got fins. So fish have a set of fins instead of arms. All right, then down here, which would be right around your hips, he's got another set of fins, and at the very back, instead of having feet or legs, this fish has got his tail. And if you'll watch those fish swimming through, you'll notice that they are using their tail and they're pushing the water back and forth, and that's how they go forward. They're using that tail as a means of propulsion, or pushing them forward through that water. Now these little side fins right here, in place of the arms, or in place of right there by their hips, those are used to steer them. So it's kind of like using a steering wheel when you're going through, when you're driving. So these are a couple of things that make fish a little bit special. Now something else that you may notice when you're looking at that fish is that those fish are covered in scales. So what I've got is I've actually got the back end of a fish called a gar. And when you look at this, you'll notice it's really, really tough. Unlike some of the other fish that are in here, gar, which live right here in Georgia, they're native to our waterways, have really thick, bony, almost scales. And you can see some gar are actually hanging out. If you look towards the top of the blue hole, do you see that fish that's got a really, really, really long, skinny nose? That is a type of gar. That's a spotted gar. And you can see why he gets the name spotted gar. It's because he's got spots all over him. Now, you'll notice we have a variety of different sized fish in there. Do you see the largest fish? I see one swimming by right now. That really, really, really big fish is called a sturgeon. He is gigantic. He is taller than me. And that sturgeon lives a really long time. They can live up to 60 years. Isn't that crazy? Now, I said that these fish behind us are living in an aquatic or freshwater environment. Well, that sturgeon is pretty special because that sturgeon can actually go back and forth between salt and freshwater. Now, as a baby, Oftentimes they start out in salt water. That's where they're born. They grow up in the salt water, and then they migrate inland and then are found in these freshwater systems that we see behind us. You'll also notice I've got some other big guys swimming around. Ooh, I must have scared him. He swam away a little faster. This guy right here, that big one, oh, here comes another one. These are called striped bass. They're a pretty thick, chunky fish. And then this guy down here is called a bluegill. And he gets the name bluegill because he's got blue on his gills. Remember we said those gills are how fish breathe or take oxygen out of the environment. So, some other critters that you might find in this type of environment, you'll notice some very tiny ones stuck to the glass. You can see that I've got some little bitty snails that are living inside of there. Obviously, this is a much bigger snail. This is actually called an apple snail. And these are an animal that get really, really, really big and are unfortunately invasive in Georgia, which means that they're not supposed to be here, but they've somehow made their way here and are doing well. Now here's the coolest part to me about this snail that you see. So if you look at the very, very center, right there, I'm gonna get nice and close so you can see it. If you look at the very center, that's what it started out as, okay? And then as he grows, his shell grows bigger. So he started out that big, and then as he grew, he also built a bigger shell, and that's how he was able to get bigger. So now, boys and girls, behind us, we said that we see all these beautiful fish that are swimming through the water, and they are living in a very precious resource. That resource is water. So what are some ways that we can help preserve fish and preserve our pristine or beautiful clean water so that we have water for future generations? There are some really simple things that you can do all by yourself, just on your own. Some of the ways that we can preserve water or conserve it. As we know, as people need water, we need to take baths, we need to brush our teeth. I hope you're brushing your teeth at least twice a day. As we need to use water for other things like cleaning, for agriculture, the more we use, the less we have. And unfortunately, we don't have as much water as we ever want. There's only a small amount that we can use on the planet Earth, which means that as we use it, it doesn't come back. So what we have to do, and like I said, this is something you can do all on your own, is we can be good stewards of our waterways and of our water systems by helping to conserve it. So what can you do at home? Let's say you're brushing your teeth, okay? While you're brushing your teeth, you can turn the water off. That's a bunch of water that you just saved, all right? Some other things that we can do, we can wash our cars less, we can water our plants at nighttime, because during the day it gets really, really hot. So by watering our plants at night, it helps to reduce the amount of water that goes up into the atmosphere or gets evaporated into the atmosphere. Now, what are some other things that we could do? Believe it or not, there's really simple things that we can do to keep our waterways cleaner. Something that's really easy is not throwing trash out of our car windows or not throwing trash on the sidewalk. Just by putting trash in our own trash cans or in places that it doesn't wash into the rivers and the streams, we can help protect not just the water, but also the fish. Because sometimes we throw trash, and if it gets into the water, it might look like food to the fish. And the fish eats it, and it could get trapped inside of that fish's stomach. We wouldn't want that to happen, because sometimes it can be toxic for the animal, or sometimes it could get clogged or impacted. So that's another really simple thing that we can do to help protect our waterways. Something else that you can do, now we all like a clean house, right? I know I really like to have a clean house, is we can use chemicals or cleaners that are green, which basically means that the chemicals aren't as toxic. So if they were to get into your water, it's not gonna harm our fish. So these are some very simple things that we can do to protect our waterways, protect our fish, and to protect all that Mother Nature has for us. Well, boys and girls, I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Signing off from the Flint River Aquarium, this is Jackie.